Hi, everybody. Welcome. Kim Bond, trainer of fitness leaders, here for our Fascia Founders Lab workshop. This is our 12th workshop. Can you believe we are here? Out of our 12 for the 12-month fitness education challenge. Thank you all for being here and being part of my beta and helping me to create catalog for workshops. I appreciate everybody being here. So let's get into this 12-month one. And I've been working on this one for about 4 months. I actually put it off to the side because I was in the middle of doing something that I wanted to integrate with it when I realized the value of it. So let's get into the Fascia Founders Lab, and we are going to talk about, are you ready for it? Here's your word. Tensegrity. Tensegrity Resiliency. Tensegrity Resiliency. Let's get into it. There will be a practical portion with this. Let's go. So welcome everybody. This is going to be our cornerstone workshop. We've had a focus on everything. Now I want to synergistically sort of put that together. We've talked about mind, we've talked about nerves, we've talked about muscles, we've talked about it all. And we would like to, with this one, bring that all together in our workshop here of the last one for the 12 months. So our learning objectives, keeping it simple. 4 objectives. Understand resiliency through tension, tensegrity, and how the fascia system distributes force. So Fascia Founders Lab, Fascia Founders. Use fascial cueing instead of muscle only cueing. So this is going to be an opportunity to up our cueing game and remove it from an isolated position into a full-fledged fingertips to toes version of that. Apply current fascial science to real coaching. And you will also get to attend a 15-minute Tensegrity Resiliency Workout. So I have one of those going as well. I'm ready in the back store there for you to view. So let's look at what true resiliency is. Let's define that first. It's not just strength and it's not just flexibility. It's your client's ability, your ability to absorb, adapt, and rebound from load. Absorb, adapt, and rebound from that load, whether that load is heavy in a squat or the stress of a long workday without breaking down. So we're trying to avoid that breakdown position. So we're looking at the process of keeping tension throughout the whole entire body, tensegrity, tension, and integrity throughout the whole body. I am strong, I am capable, and I am resilient. Okay, next one. So the Fascia Founders Lab, I wanted to take a perspective of this that maybe you haven't seen before. And usually you'll notice I bring in some stats and some current stuff, or look at how we bring all this integrated information together. I wanted to take a step back, look away from the science and say, where did this all start from, and bring it all together in the health and fitness industry. So let's look at how it got here. This is fabulous. I love this whole entire thing. So with our decadials, and we'll go by decadials. Okay, so let's get into the decades. 1920 to 1960. We have controlology. I really believe that's where it fell under, was controlology. What did controlology look like? We know it. We had Pilates on the scene. We had movement therapy, and we also had dance. Dance. So all of that is part of this fascia fitness history. 1920 to 1960 was the whole body connection. Okay, it started there. Then when we got into the 1960s and the 1980s, so there's that 22 decadial thing going on, we had this Rolf system. We stepped back a little bit and we looked at what was called pinning. So we had the idea of fascia sliding, pinning. Wasn't so scientifically, wasn't in the fitness industry. Why? Because the fitness industry was not like in the fashion it was at that time until it got in a little bit later there. So we had this rolling thing going on. And what it really was, it was the scientific method of taking the knot, not searching for the knot, but taking the knot, finding it, pressure pointing on it, and then sliding and gliding. So pin and slide and glide the muscle through a lengthening position. So again, lengthening, whole body connective. Think about Pilates, lengthening, dance, lengthening, movement there. Think of that. So then we move forward into the 60s and 80s and we talk about a pin and glide movement. So that manual therapy became a really big thing to quote unquote start looking at the knots and pin and glide. There you go. Then we hit the 1980s and we got into the 2000s. And what happened in this whole area? It went into fitness. Why? This is where personal trainers came on the scene. Group fitness was there long before the real industry of personal training and the scientific end of one-on-one coaching training came in. Just so you know, that's how it all worked. So group was here first. We were the founders. We did it in all of our movements we did. But come the 80s and the 2000s, not even relating it or saying we are doing myofascia movement or we are doing fascia line movements. We saw the rise of myofascia release. We saw rollers, right? We saw massage therapy guns start to come in. Those actually didn't come in till about the 2000s, but still, and into the later 2000s, but still, we saw the foam rollers. The Everything was small and manipulative. And how could I get rid of my own knots? We started to see this biomechanical shift. And then we also saw the basics of the science advance in the industry. So we started getting more scientific. We brought the personal training, the science in, and we were more isolated on what we were doing and not so much just going through the movement. And then we hit this area, and there's this gap between 2000 7, but between the 205, 5 to 7 there, we really got through in scientific breakthrough. And we started to get smart. And everything we talked about smart was like, what can we do with our muscles that are making us smarter because we're sitting a little bit? And we've had some research on this, and we now know what we mean when we say that we are going to slide and glide our muscles. We have more intelligence on that. The fitness industry has been around. We have our exercise science. We're going to expand on that exercise science. We're going to look into assessing, and then we're going to bring some system scientific methods in. This is where we saw the massage guns come in, therapy pants, and we saw a huge focus shift towards the fitness industry. Do you remember these times? I hope we remember these times. So there we are currently where we're sitting at. Hope that makes sense to everybody. So that was just a walk through it. So now that we know the little bit of history where it came just through movement, went into a little bit of manual manipulative therapy for about 20 years. We saw that the start then right there of kinesiology start to take off. We went into the myofascia release. We had this transitional few years where we weren't sure quite what was happening, and where it all melded. Then we melded that in and we came up to where we are in 2025 with what we all know about, which is fascia release. So now we've been talking about connective tissues for about 30, 40 years in science. In the last 15 years, we've really looked at the connective tissue of the fascia that's moving around the body and what that is about, more in personal training, but we've always been applying it in group. Okay. So, what is fascia? Let's take a look at that. It gives our body its structural integrity. So, it's a connective tissue that pulls it all together. Think of a web. So I put a picture of an orange here. And if you can think of the outside of the orange that you peel and everything's on the inside of it, that's a thin web-like layered fabric of connective tissue wraps, separates and supports muscles, organs, bones, and nerves. So it's supporting everything through connective tissue like a thin web-like 3D spider web. So if you think of it being smooth and flexible, it's like a plastic wrap. If you said to me, take like a pipe cleaners and put it inside saran wrap, that's what you would see on the inside of the plastic wrap. White, little like stringy, little stringy. It's mainly made of collagen. It's mainly made of collagen. So collagen becomes super important for it to be flexy bendy and movie as a onesie over top of our whole entire body as we think about creating equal tension and integrity across the whole body, as opposed to just that isolated compartmental thing. So let's just look at some of the characteristics. I'm not going to go into the deep science. This is not a myofascia course. It's just looking at the characteristics, looking at some foundations. And if you have not already taken extensive training on this, there's quite a few workshops out there, specialty certifications, and most biomechanical assessment workshops deal with it in the fascia movement as well. And I've also got a new program that has come to light in the last few years that I'll enlighten us in as we move along through the workshop. So the key characteristics of fascia, this connective tissue that is this web-like onesie around the body, it has this elastic recoil. It stores and releases energy like a spring. So think about that spring going on, and it supports sufficient movement. Think of a spring pulling out, pulling all directions, like springy, all directions. Not just sagittal, frontal, transverse. It's sagittal frontal transverse. Sagittal frontal transverse. It's all these fascia lines, these webs that are either long lines or sideways with a little long or spiral from, think of fingertips to toes. It has a hydration and a glide. Healthy fascia slides smoothly between layers, reducing friction and stiffness. So here's where we can talk about our client's stiffness, group PT, whatever that looks like, and we can start moving a little bit more with fascia. High sensory system. Packed with receptors, drives your balance, your coordination, and your body awareness. That's why people feel when they pressure something and there's a knot there, they're like, "Oh, I can feel that tension." Because it's very highly sensory. And if you think about it, it is through your whole entire body like a onesie. So we're not just pinpointing tension all the time. It's got this tense, think of a chain fence that's leaning forward and it's trying to pull back and it's structurally trying to find its way back up. That's what a whole onesie, a balance of fascia looks like. It's a whole body loading sharing. Fascia responds to global tension, not to single muscular contractions. Global tension. Okay. So if we put that concept of fascia, all of a onesie, we know from our exercise science already that we have this movement forward, backwards plane, long frontal lines, fascias in lines. And then we're going to have this frontal plane that is side to side, these side lines from the front and the side and spiral, fingertip to toes. And then we're going to have the spiraling fascia that is doing the twisting and turning the whole entire time. So we do have all of our planes that we're working around, and it's just a change of language from plane to line of fascia, fingertip to toe. That's not just talking about one plane, but moving through the 360 of all of the planes, being more fascia, being more multi or planar. So what is tensegrity? Think of tension and integrity. Key coaching is train connection, not parts. Think vectors and length and spirals. Think whole body movements going on, all connecting the bone tissue, connecting to we did those in exercise science. Think of the whole body system. So let's look at bones as equaling compression, rigid structures that absorb and take the load. They direct the load. But then the fascia is the tensegrity, a continual web that stretches, transmits, and recoils through those bones and around those bones. So how it works. Tensegrity is the balance of tension and compression. It's the balance of tension, the fascia around the compression of the bones to hold us into structure. When you apply force in one area, the whole system adjusts. Load is shared, not isolated. Why it matters in movement. Movement becomes light and more efficient. That is super important. Joints experience less direct force. You now take that and spread it out through the whole entire body. Power transfers through the chains not into one muscle. The body behaves like a connected structure and not separate parts, not the wrist or the elbow, but the wrist and the elbow and the shoulder. And it starts to really bounce and become this vibrant body of bounce connectivity. It is really our whole body movements, tensegrity, tension and integrity throughout the fascia that's holding the bones in the compression. And now we have movement and it makes us all springy. And we want to take this type of training and speak to it from fingertip to toe tip of fascia in the body. Yes, we've done rolling. So the whole body, bouncy, bouncy. Let's think of this whole bouncy, bouncy. Why tensegrity training matters. So a big reason why it matters is that we have this training effect and strong without bracing, but it's stable without gripping. So we're always like on things. But if we move that little bit of grip going on, we are going to feel that we have control from the whole body and not just from one anchored position. So we have less stress on those joints. The force will spread throughout the network instead of landing onto that one joint going on. It provides better balance for the whole body and rotation. Whole body tension improves control, direction, and rotational power. It provides more efficient forces for you to transfer it across. So now you're transferring all of the weight across a whole chain instead of just one, which means energy moves smoother through chains, stronger and smoother movement overall. Less joint stress, better balance and rotation, and more efficient forces for transfer. And that's things like shoulder checking, rotating and tipping down, lifting up and reaching to the side in these full functional movements. So, our job moving forward as fitness professionals is really in the modern fitness landscape. Our job is not just to build muscle, but our job is to build this durability where we know our clients have longevity, where they have a system that is resilient for the lifetime. A key to this is understanding body resilience through fascia. So tensegrity is the future of durable training. You've probably heard terms like create that body armor. And those that have been doing personal training for a while, if you just started and you've taken your foundation, you've had a little bit of limited exposure to the fascia. Depending on who your trainer was, some are very heavy on the training of it. Some other educators are very heavy on muscle movement, but it all comes together. And then it is your role as a fitness professional to go out there and bring that all together. So those that first came out with the personal training way back in the 80s, listen to me, way back in the 80s. When we first got certified in personal training, I was one of the first certified personal trainers in the province of British Columbia in Canada because it didn't exist. We had group first, and we had this wellness, little bit of weight training going on, but we never had private personal training one-on-one sessions. So as we brought that up, we started getting into more of the science end of it, and we applied that. But I was still applying all of this in a group fashion. We just weren't using those words, and we were doing it in more isolation. So those that have come from a prior certification and have worked through this isolation mode, this is an opportunity to go and take a little in-depth, maybe a specialty certification, either in the personal training realm or if you are group. I took one this year that I'm going to explain to you as we move along here. So, bottom part, you are the next generation of founders. You integrate research and real movement to evolve your client resiliency. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to do this fascial cueing that's different than muscle cueing. So muscles squeeze, brace, and isolate. Fascia lengthens, broadens, spirals, and rebounds. Think of a trampoline and holding your body in space. One of the things that just fascinates me, and it always fascinated me specifically for the sport that my son went into. He's now 25, plays at a high level, but the sport he went into required such a fingertip to toe. And he tried many different movements when he was younger because I've always done coaching. But I noticed when he was about 5 years old, he was able to do this toe to fingertip. And I thought, I really appreciate that movement that he has. And I was getting into training that was into these sports movements, balance, agility. And this is when Peter Twist and Greg Anderson also came onto the scene into the fitness industry and brought all of this integrated type movement going on that we learned in the province of BC, in Canada, all over the world. IDEA, just a fantastic group through the Twist organization. So the next thing to look at is we've had it through Pilates, we've probably had it through dance, but different types of dance. We've probably had it through bar. The bar classes have been good, but I got a new one for you. So we're going to think in our cueing to go from hold to grow. Grow tall through both sides of the spine, up and out. Create length from heel to fingertips. Widen your back instead of squeeze it. Lift it and elevate it. Open it up. Let's look at that kind of cueing. So for our program that we're going to do, we are going to do a warm-up, and this is what I'm going to call it. This is just taking the basic foundational moves of fascia lines that are forwards and backwards, side to side, spiral, and adding the recoil and bounce to it, making it 4 different areas. And then I'm going to show you a branded program. I'm just excited for the branded program because it allowed me to define what this was and then speak to it on both the personal training and on the group fitness end of it. So what I did is I created this 15-minute class, and I used 3 warm-up exercises that were 30 seconds apiece. And then I took 8 exercises, split them into 2 minutes for each exercise, 1.5 minutes for some of them at the end as they got more complex. So we did a total of 11 exercises. And I've got it in the Tensegrity program, the workout. It's less than 15 minutes, and you can watch that video. There's a couple modifications you can put into it. It is just getting the foundation of letting go and shaking the body and bringing fingertip motions and really visualing more of a flow and a wave of the body, and not so much this structured program of you must move like this. But I'll show you one that you can. And I'll send you to the video so you can get a visual of what it would be like to bring it all together in a sequence and put it to some flow. We have chosen the 3 areas that we're going to choose from. We've got 3 warm-up areas, and I have a choice of 3 exercises. I'm going to pick 1 in each area. We're going to do a shakeout hydration of the body. We're going to do a lunge and bounce and a foot tripod, heel past the pad of the foot. And then we're going to do rib circles and diagonal. So shake, bounce, and circle. Shake, bounce, and circle. So I picked 1 from each one of those. I picked the whole body shake. I then picked the tripod swing, and I did the rib cage circles. So those were the 3 that I picked. I have the whole program in a PDF, and I wrote out just words on description of how to do these exercises. So that will be the 3 warm-up exercises, each 30 seconds for 1.5 minutes. And then we've got our 4 categories where we're going to have 2 exercises in each of that. And that's our 8 exercises, bringing it to 11 in total. So this one is Tensegrity is the future of durable training. Went over that. We're going to use the fascia lines instead of that frontal. We're going to talk about long lines, fingertips to toes, more of that forward and back that we're very comfortable with. Spiral lines, elastic rebound, and then we're going to integrate it all together. So I've chosen a lunge and a reach and a suspended squat. You're going to see me take a band and put it to the ceiling, which you could use a TRX suspension train. You could just use a piece of rope, and it's just used for decompression. I wrote that out into our instructions. Then I did spirals, where we're going to do a rotation and sweeping. Again, it's just really flow movements, not movements you haven't already done, just bringing value to the movement and make sure that our cueing is there to create a flow of tension and integrity as just to lock in movement from fingertip to toe. And then we did a standing bow reach. And there's two ways to do that. There's a forward opposite arm one and a sideways drag your arm one going on. So I did the sideways drag your arm, but to two in the description. And then this elastic rebound. So now, if you think about it, what is rebounding? For us, we know it is hopping, but to do that very lightly and to not add too much heavy bounce, super important, really, really important. So, low impact, high impact will show that little bit of elastic bounce going on. And then, of course, we're going to bring it all together. Recoil pushes, upper recoil pushes. Why? Because bounce is on the bottom, recoil on the top. Integration is going to bring us to a tensegrity stand. We're going to learn this just tripod stand of moving that body around and learning how. This is where I talk about where you have a full body suit on and you're pulling it out all 3D and making it as wide from your body as you possibly can, from the sides, from the front, from the up, from the tall, like all, think of it pulling away from your whole entire body. And that's going to be our tensegrity stand. And then we're going to do a fold and rise, which just spirals the body into what we already know is a fold rise on that. So those are going to be our exercises going into it. And then what I've got is this practical application. We'll do that. It's a 15-minute workout. That'll be a separate video that we have coming up here. And then what took me a while is because I presented this not based on resources. You can look up definitions on the tensegrity. That could just be everything. But I wanted to supply you with a list of resources, one that you could have access to, because so many people do not have access to academic bases, but these resources that are in academic bases are also in open sources. So I think that that's important when you can see that they're peer reviewed and they're cited and what people are saying about it. So I brought these 5 resources that really speak to what we're talking about, why fascia, why we need to speak it, how it works within the body. Each one is specifically picked for you to focus on something that speaks to you. How does fascia work with power? How does it work with structure? How does it work overall? Um, yeah, so this is the full on. If you said to me, how do I come about looking at this? I want to bring a focus, a word focus to you. So many times when we talk about academics, we talk about resource. I want you to focus in on the word that I used with education. So resource comes into our recourse. So we are going to recourse all of our cueing. I put that there. I wanted to put that in brackets. I want you to see that. I want you to think of how you can cue what you learn in your sources absent of isolation. So that is a word play for me. And as you go through this, think in my courses, what have I used? Where are my resources? And how do I refocus that cueing through this scientific evidence? It's one thing to read scientific evidence. It's another thing to look at it and understand how to apply it, how to course apply it. That's super, super important. So think about recoursing your resourcing. Recourse, resource. It's a play on words for your education. Next up, Musingi elemental movement. I knew that this was in the works during COVID, and Ingrid Cohe Knight had been working on this for quite a few years. Wonderful, wonderful, much awarded educator in the health and fitness industry all over North America. Just going to put that out there. Runs a very high-end group fitness department in BC, Canada here through Fitness World, but she is a creator of all creators, and she has created a program called Musingi Element Movement and put this tensegrity concept to movements that we can cue eloquently. And she's put it to this Afrocentric beat is some of the most beautiful movements. And it's just taking what we already know, giving them an easy cueing name, allowing us to focus on it. So here's what it is. Masingi is an inclusive movement practice designed to improve functional strength and primal mobility. Inspired by the elements of earth, fire, and driven by Afro beats, Masingi builds muscle mobility and a positive mindset. It was really good. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Would do it 2 or 3 times, taken classes, watched it. We have quite a few members that do it. Yes, I'm going to be putting it on my schedule in 2026. I have just been busy, and I want to make sure that I'm very practiced when I'm doing branded programs. So she has a certification. If you want to teach this as a group fitness instructor, or you just want to teach elemental movement, personal training, you don't even have to be group fitness. This is just a separate certification that is Afrocentric, positioned on beat with elemental movement that brings in nature and flow. It's awesome. So she does a certification. She's doing one on January 24th, 2026. I believe it's in Vancouver. I've got the link here for her website. It's going to be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. She does a bit online. She has a bit in class as well. So you can take a look at that and you can contact her directly for that course certification information. Feel free to contact her directly. Um, Definitely would take that. You'll see that coming up into my schedule on online on Engage Fitness Collective as well. So then for our workshop access, this month actually I am going to decide, one, if I'm putting this on Canva or not, or I'm going to leave that on Zoom because I can switch that over, put it on YouTube. So what you're seeing me do is play around with, this is a plate. So I produce this plate. And every single month, which is sometimes my links, they're like, wrong link. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Appreciate your patience on that as I learn how to work my templates. And sometimes you'll see elements where it says Zoom. Sometimes you'll see YouTube. Sometimes you'll see Canva. So as we see these icons going on, it'll be click on icon, click on that, and then go to that section and reveal it, walk through the process, finish it up. We have the community. We're going to have the presentation. This one, we will have a practical presentation. We will have the quiz. You will have the feedback form. And also, I will have a PDF that I will be sending out to everybody that will have the actual 15-minute program that goes with the Tensegrity. So with that, again, you are welcome to join my online health club and community, True Northwest Academy, in Facebook. We have about 330 members. I haven't checked today on that. But for the Christmas holidays for December, I am doing the, you're going to like this one. So it is the Guess the Pine Cone Length game, and it's a gamification, and I have old growth pine cones. I'm not just talking old growth. I am in South Central BC here where we got trees you can't hug. They're so big. And we are guessing 8 pine cone lengths. And every time we get that right, we are putting that name into a draw. And then we are going to have accumulated draw at the end of that. So we will get to that before the end of December. If you want to join that, you want to get into my True Northwest Online Health Club, join us for some classes there. And of course, all the content that is available there. You need to get a hold of me. Here you are, all of my contact information. So for this month's workshop, we are out. We are completed. 12-month challenge. That was a challenge for me. I want to thank you all for your patience one more time. I'm blessed to just have you all a part of my fitness education world that is out here. We'll have a creative something coming up for 2026. What should we do? We have to do some creative education challenge. We got to think up a new one. We are on it for 2026. Coach Kim, trainer of fitness leaders out. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We will see you in 2026. We will see you online. We will see you inside, and have a great workshop.